This is Bearded One back with another beer review. I just feel like standing up today. If you follow the channel, I've been testing out my phone stand. I've just been reviewing outside in the living room and my guest bedroom, different angles. I'm a man of variety. I have ADD, so I guess that's part of it. And I've just been sitting around all weekend, you know, everything going on in the world today. I'm sure every single one of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just got me, I don't know, I just went through a lazy funk. And not depression, not sadness, but it's not feeling like doing anything. So, you know, and with that comes with sitting around, and I need to stand up. I need to stretch my bones or something. So here I am making this video, standing up. I feel like I have a treat for you today. And I'm sorry if this light is in the way or distracting. I can't do much about that. But I've actually been draining my queue in my phone, so I've had to get off my lazy butt and actually make a review. This review will probably come out Wednesday, and I'm reviewing it on Sunday, which usually I have like a 2 or 3 week backup queue. Just for days when I can't get to filming. But you'll see this video pretty fresh. However, this beer, the Sierra Nevada Limited Edition 40th Anniversary, it's their Hoppy Anniversary Ale. It is not going to be as fresh. I caught it in a single rack, and usually, at least around here, if you catch a beer in a single, it's been there for a while. You know, it's been in the store for a while. At least in my experience in the places I go. Yeah, packaged December 30th, 2019. Any other beer style, I don't give a damn about the date, especially high ABV or barrel aged, and I know with every single beer there is, age affects the beer. But it's just a general idea that sometimes age can affect a high ABV or a barrel-aged beer really well sometimes, and it is the opposite consensus among the community that hop forward beers and IPAs really flatten out over time, and I tend to agree with that, as I have reviewed several old beers that will be getting a fair shake in the future. This unfortunately will not be getting a fair shake unless by some miracle in the next couple of weeks I can find a really fresh Hoppy Anniversary Ale. But with this being potentially the only beer of its kind released by Sierra Nevada, don't expect a fair shake if indeed the beer tastes a little flat. I'm just going to say this is an IPA. I read somewhere that this is supposed to be an IPA, although this says Hoppy Anniversary Ale. I did not find much about it on their website. It's kind of weird. Pouring these things out. I don't know why I usually hold bottles down here. I don't know. I'm just talking. I read somewhere that these are IPAs, not just a hop forward beer. And on their website, they chose IPA as their 40th anniversary ale, just to harken back to when they were first brewing in 1980. And they were they were way ahead of the curve on the hop madness that would ensue, let's say 30 years later, roughly 25, 30 years later. Way ahead of their time. So as you can see, the head has dissipated a little bit. I couldn't see, I'm on top of the beer, so I couldn't exactly see how much head I got. However, it is a little more on the creamier side, not a soapier head for sure. For 6.5, I see a little bit of alcohol on the edge, but I wouldn't say this thing has legs. There is a little hop character for this thing to be about 3 months old to the day. It does have a little bit of hop character left in it. A little bit of I'm gonna say a little bit of pine, a little bit of grass. It's real faint, but I can tell it's there. And with them being from California, I would assume it has more of that danky character than per se like a New England citrusy IPA or something. It's more on the murky side. You know, I tend to say hazy. I kind of have my own clarity scale. It's definitely my own thing. I'm not going to act like it's super original or anything, but I like to say murky for things that I can sort of kind of see through. And this definitely is more murky than I would say hazy. It has a deep, rich amber color. I really like the color on this thing. It's like a really super dark gold, bright amber kind of color. I think there's dust-like particulate matter in here. Yeah, there's definitely like a dusty particulate. Trying to be fancy with my vocabulary. Floating around in here, and the occasional group of bubbles will fly around here, so a little bit of action, not too dead, not too volatile either. I think that's all I got for the appearance, guys. Let's get into the best part of a beer review. Thank God the hops held up. Do they hold up versus a fresh bottle of 40th anniversary? I don't know. But for 3 months old, this thing definitely has a little bit of kick to it. Yeah, I'm getting pine. Not a lot of bitterness here. Maybe the bitterness, the bittering. Maybe, what am I trying to say here? Maybe the bittering kind of flattened out with the age, and it didn't really hurt the pine characteristic. I don't know. I'm not an expert on hops. That's just me kind of just talking out of my mouth here. I do know that the Germans like to use their German noble hops strictly for bittering and not flavoring. So knowing that, I kind of wonder, can you affect the bitterness factor of a hop without the flavor part of a hop? I'm not sure. That's an interesting thought. If you have any thoughts about that, or you're an expert on hops, or you work at Yakima Valley, or you work on a farm in Germany, you know, harvesting German noble hops, you know, put some stuff in the comments below. I'd love to learn more about hops and what makes hops tick, what makes hops age, how hops are over time. That'd be great. We could all learn together with that. But yeah, I am getting the piney, earthy. It's not sharp. It's definitely, I won't say delicate or faint, but it's definitely a mild pininess there with very, very little bitterness. Water seems to be a big feature in this. I'm really reminded of a West Coast IPA. I'm not privy to West Coast IPAs, but I did review the Stone IPA, and that is like the prototypical. You know, it's probably not the original. It probably didn't come out first. But it seems to be like a textbook, prototypical, like traditional West Coast IPA, and this beer sort of reminds me of that Stone IPA. I'm getting a little bit of prickliness here. It's not like a soda or anything. Just a little bit of carbonation there. I feel like on the back end, if I'm really trying to feel for it, like I am right now, I'm really trying to dwell on it. I feel like I can get a little bit of sweet, malty characteristic. It'd probably be something more on the pale side than, like, say, a caramel. Definitely not a dark, roasty malt flavor. It just feels more like a traditional beer malt characteristic. Nothing too crazy or rich or anything. You know, these West Coast IPAs, and if this isn't a West Coast IPA, okay, it says right here on the bottle, I didn't even know. This beer showcases the bold flavors and aromas of a classic West Coast IPA. Intense pine and citrus. I didn't get the citrus. With a deep gold color and slight caramel sweetness. I didn't say caramel, but it's on the bottle. If you had this fresh, maybe you get a little bit more caramel in here. Maybe you taste the sweetness. I'm actually proud of myself. This is why I don't like to read taster notes or ingredient lists prior to a review, because I feel like it's good. It's a good way to exercise my palate and my perceptions. And for those of you, I know a couple guys follow me from work. If you're interested in going down the path I'm going, and let me just say for everybody, I am not an expert. I'm not a certified judge. I'm not a Cicerone. I don't even have the bar server Cicerone. I haven't even passed the entrance exam, you know, for the BJCP. So by no means am I an expert. By no means am I some kind of authority on beer. But I feel like I'm still in the enthusiast category. I still feel like I have a basic foundation of what I'm tasting and sensing. And so if you at least just want to get down the road and get to where I feel like I am at my journey in beer, where I read this after the review or after the notes and thoughts, and I pretty much nailed what was on the back. You know, if you are interested in that, don't read taster's notes and don't read ingredients lists prior to a review. Is it a sin to do that? No, it is not a sin. By all means, do it. In fact, it's also good practice to read those taster notes and read the ingredients list beforehand to see if you get those notes. It's just for me and where I'm at in my journey. I feel like it's better exercise of my perceptions in my brain to see if what I'm tasting is accurate. Anyways, I digress. That's just my 2 cents. If you're interested in tasting a beer, especially you guys following me that I work with, just my 2 cents on that kind of thing. So yeah, where was I at? I was saying this is a West Coast IPA, and I was about to get into recommendations, is where I was headed before that rabbit trail. I feel like West Coast IPA is a weird style of beer when it comes to appeal. So to me, I feel like, if I was describing West Coast IPA to somebody who had never heard of IPA, or they didn't even know West Coast IPA existed, and they wanted a quick description. You know, we're at the bar and they're about to order a West Coast IPA, and they just want a quick description. I would describe a West Coast IPA as a lager-like beer. That would be something like a Budweiser with predominant hop flavor. More along the lines of your piney, earthy hops that are going to be a lot more bitter than, say, something in a New England IPA that would have a lot of citrus in it. So that's how I would describe a New England or a West Coast IPA. And I'm saying that to say I don't think beginners would necessarily like this style of beer, being that it's kind of devoid of everything but the hops, in my opinion. That doesn't mean this is a bad style. I just feel like the malt, you know, West Coast IPA doesn't use adjunct flavors. You know, we're not talking about a New England IPA, a milkshake IPA, double dry hopped, sour, kettle, whatever beer. You know, all this crazy beer. This is, you know, West Coast IPA is way more on the traditional side of things. And lagers, this is an ale. This is not a lager. It just comes off as a lager, and lagers tend to have a delicate flavor profile. They're not rich in anything, and I don't feel like lagers or ales that come off as lagers are sweet enough for beginners. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just going over the hill and through the woods to get to my recommendations. But, you know, this is a good West Coast IPA. If you're a West Coast IPA fan, or you're an IPA lover and you're into IPAs, give it a shot. You pale ale fans out there, I think West Coast IPA is a perfect transitional beer to bring in the pale ale crowd, the extra pale ale people into the IPA fold, and get them on board with IPAs. I think West Coast IPA can do that to people who are already used to hops. But if you're not used to hops, West Coast IPA isn't really a style I would recommend to you. Nevertheless, I think this is a really solid beer. I can tell there's some age on it. You know, even with age, I still like how this beer held up over time. It makes me think this beer is a really fantastic, at a fresh, you know, fresh. And I think that this beer is still being brewed until the end of March, which would be another week from now. So if you see 40th anniversary, there's a good chance it's still fresh. As for a grading goes, I'm feeling a strong B. I'm going to give this a 3 point. One more time. Because of the age, and I'm going to grade this specific bottle, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. If I had this at a fresher date, I think this beer would rank anywhere from a 3.75 to a 4.25. I think this beer could possibly get into the low end of the excellent range. I'm not really privy to West Coast IPAs. For a lot of the things I've said earlier in this video, are just not the right kind of style for me personally. But I still appreciate West Coast IPAs. I have an affinity for traditional styles. I think even traditional styles need love. But yeah, even with age, this is still a great B rating, 3.5 out of 5. If you see this on shelves, pick it up if you're interested. At least get it in a single, because I mean, this is an anniversary ale. When an anniversary ale comes out, you're probably never going to see it again, and that goes for any brewery. I'm sure some breweries re-release things, but usually anniversary beers are just for that anniversary, and you'll never see them again. So, you know, at least for a one-time try, pick this up. Alright guys, I apologize. I know I went on and on in this video. Kind of went on some rabbit trails. My first recording in probably a couple of weeks.